Okay, so to even begin to play Jet Set Radio Future on CXBX, you're going to need the emulator, XDVD mulleter, and you're going to need an ISO file of Jet Set Radio Future. First, you want to download CXBX. You're going to want to download XDVD mulleter. You're going to need an ISO file, which I can't link because YouTube is going to take the video down, but if you Google Jet Set Radio Future ISO file, one of the first results you should get is a Reddit thread, and in that Reddit thread there is a link to a zip file. You're going to want to download the zip file. It's about 6 gigabytes. It's going to take a while to download, but that has the ISO in the zip file. Once you have CXBX reloaded and XDVD mulleter downloaded, you're going to have to extract them using either WinRAR or 7-zip, which are free downloads. Extract CXBX, extract XDVD mulleter. So to use XDVD mulleter, you're going to want to open the exe file. You're going to want to click extract browse files in ISO, click next. And then you're going to want to go to load from file and click browse. And when you have the ISO file extracted onto wherever it is, you're going to want to click that ISO file and click open. Click next, and this screen should show up. You're going to want to click extract all and then pick the folder that you want to extract the actual game files to. Then it should take a little bit just to extract the files, but once that's done, you have the files that you need to play the game. Once you have the ISO file extracted through XDVD mulleter, this is what it should look like. You have an XBE file, and then you have the media folder with all of the stuff in it. For CXBX, you're going to want to click cxbx.exe, click run. If it asks you if you want to use CXBX Reloaded in portable mode, you're going to want to click yes. Once CXBX is open, you're going to want to change some video settings. I personally use these settings, so if you want to just copy the settings that I use, you can pause the video and then just use these settings. I've heard that AMD cards don't run as well on CXBX, so that might be why you might have to use a different render resolution, because the render resolution increases the fidelity of the quality of the image. You're also going to want to have to change the input settings if you're going to be using a controller. I use the MS Gamepad Duke, configure, and then just set up the settings how you like them. I would create a profile and then click save. Once all that's done, you're going to want to open XBE. You're going to want to go to the folder that the XBE that you extracted is. Click the default XBE, click open, and then you should see this little icon on the bottom right if everything went right. Next, you're going to want to hit emulation and start. This should start the game. If it doesn't, then you might have done something wrong, or maybe your computer might not be able to actually run the game. So up to this point, I've just shown you how to download, install, and run Jet Set Radio Future on CXBX. If you want to begin modding and adding your own things to Jet Set Radio Future, you're going to need a few tools and different files. In the description, I'm going to be putting the links to everything that I use. First, you're going to want to go to JSRF Inside and download the JSRF mod tool. To import your own music into Jet Set Radio Future, you're going to need the PES audio converter. Click manual download. To import your own sounds into Jet Set Radio Future, you're going to need the Jet Set Radio Future sound tool and the Xbox AD PCM converter. So the first thing I'm going to start with is the Jet Set Radio Future modding tool. Once you open it, you're going to want to go to settings. First of all, make 2 versions of the media that you want, one that you're going to be modding and then one as a backup just in case you need to revert the file. So for instance, my modded file is Jet Set Radio Future copy, and then my other one is just called Xbox. So there we go. The Xbox part you don't really need to worry about because we're going to be using an emulator instead of using a modded Xbox to play Jet Set Radio Future. The preferred texture editor, I would use paint.net, so you want to choose the directory folder that your paint.net exe is in and then choose the exe. Once you have your media folder directory selected, you're going to have all of these folders. Each folder has different things in them. So for instance, the player folder has all these data files, and in the data files are all the models that you have for the different characters. The pink files tell you that there is a model, and the orange files tell you that there are textures. Neodos has a few different tutorials on how to use the mod tool. but there are many different things that you can do. For instance, I've seen him do people. You can copy different kinds of models and then export them onto other characters. But for what I do, I usually edit the actual player models and textures. So let's say I wanted to change Clutch's model. You're going to want to click Export MDL, pick a spot. I'm going to make a little folder here. So let's call it Clutch. Go in the folder, name this Clutch Body. Save that. So to edit the models, you're going to need a model editor like Blender, which is free. So we're going to open Blender. You're also going to need the Blender source tools, which is on the Neodos character model tutorial. So right here tells you need the source tools. So download the source tools. So you're going to want to click on Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, Install. Click on the zip file, Install add-on, and then it should have installed. It should just be ready to go. So that will have in this scene little tab right here, there's all these different things. So to set this up, you're going to want to set the export path to wherever you extracted the actual model file. So here we are. Click Accept. You're going to want to set it to SMD and then click Target Up Axis to Y. So that's all set. So to import the actual model, you want to go to File, Import, Source Engine. Go back to wherever you extracted the model, click the Clutch Body. All of these ones are only used when you're importing the actual model into the mod tool. You don't have to edit them yourself, they're just there. So import whatever you called it. Now we have Clutch's body. Ta-da! So now I would just delete all of these other things, the camera, cube, and light, just delete those, and then we're just left with the body. So the way that the importing works, when you import a model, they have all of these different materials. This side you don't really have to worry about, so just the materials. So for instance, material 0 is Lambert, material 1 is standard, which is usually used for clothing, material 2 is 0, which who knows. This mod tool doesn't really tell you everything, but it tells you pretty much anything that you need to know. Material 3, metal, 4, metal reflective, 5 is skin. So when you go into the actual materials, you'll see that, oh look, he has 0 through 5, which is what you would be importing into it. So for instance, whatever it said, so if we click on the model, go to modeling, and then we can click on an actual face, and if you go to the material, it'll tell you, oh, material 0. So this material 0 is clothing, material 2 is skin, and then this one is the metal, material 2, just everything kind of makes sense. Some stuff doesn't really make sense. So if something in the game is like reflective and it doesn't really make sense, you kind of have to tinker with how you're importing the model itself. So another thing that's important is if you want to have the actual textures in Blender. To export the texture to use in Blender, you're going to want to click Edit Texture, and then you're going to want to go to the folder that it's in, and it should be under Resources, TMP, and here you have all of the different temporary files. So for instance, here we have the actual body texture, so I'm going to copy it, go back to Clutch, I'm going to make a little folder, just call it Textures, and then paste that into there. So now we have his body texture for use in Blender. So now we go on to the material that you're going to want to use all of the materials. So we'll start with material 0, use nodes, and then next to base color there is this yellow circle. You're going to want to click the circle and go to image texture. Then you want to click open, go to where you put the body texture. So for here I'm going to put a little favorite, so whenever I want to I can just go right to the textures, open image, bam. So now we have that. So if we look on here, this shows you the different textures. This one is what it normally goes to, which shows you the materials, but this one actually shows you the textures. So for each material, you're going to want to go do the same thing, use nodes, click on the yellow circle, image texture, open, body texture, bam. Same thing, image texture, open. So now that we have all the textures applied to the materials, you can see here that this is Clutch. You can see everything about him. So now, make sure you have him selected. You can edit the texture inside the editor. So you want to go to Texture Paint. And then for instance, if I wanted to change his body, let's say I want to get rid of the text, I can go here. You'll want to like figure out all of the different kinds of shortcuts. So S, holding S and letting go lets me use the dropper, pick the different kind of color I want, and then I can just get rid of the text. And then you can see on the body, bam, it's gone. So this accurately lets you change the texture in Blender without having to use an outside image editor. So once you have the texture how you want it, you can save as, and then for instance I could put this as Clutch body edit 1. So save the image as that, and then I can go back into edit texture. So what you're going to want to do is go back to the temporary folder, so resources, temporary, and then when you clicked edit texture, you're going to want to go into the texture. So once you open the temporary file, you're also going to want to open the file that you made inside Blender. So here we go, Clutch body edit, open that. So now we have two different files, the one that I edited and then the one that the mod tool created for me. So I'm going to copy this, paste it, and then hit save. Once that's saved, you hit save changes inside the mod tool, and bam. Now when you open the game, it's going to have gotten rid of the text on his shirt, or whatever edit you've done to the texture. So obviously with Blender you're going to want to learn as you go, maybe look at some tutorials and stuff like that, but for now I'm just going to be pretty much making like a small edit to Clutch. So maybe let's get rid of the boosters on his rollerblades. Well, actually a faster way may be going into UV editing, UV sync selection. So this shows you the entire UV map, which pretty much is what takes the 3D model and imprints it onto the actual UV texture. So all these different textures, this is what it uses to tell the model where the textures are and like what it looks like. So for instance, if I go to these little thingies and I click one of these, it'll show you, oh look, it's right here. So I can just drag and it's selected pretty much all of these. So and then this, I can just select all of those as well. So I will deselect these because I just want the booster. It's a little time consuming, but it takes a long time if you want to make your own models. I have everything selected. I think so. There we go. Now I can hit X, which is delete, and then you want to click faces, and there we go. Now his boosters are gone. But now we have this huge gash in his rollerblades, which is not good. It's not what we want. So I'm going to pick vertex select and go back to modeling, vertex select, and then I'm going to shift click the vertexes. So there we go, and then hitting F. So that will join the vertexes back to a face that you want. So I'll just click all the vertexes that I want, hit F, and there we go. Look, see? Now his rollerblade is all fixed up. and then just do it to the other one. And there we go. So now his rollerblades don't have boosters, only the ones on the back. So this is just a small edit, but you usually want to start with like small stuff just to get used to using Blender. There are a lot of things that I don't really know how to do, like I don't know how to edit the skeleton and things like that. So someone who's a bit more advanced or more used to using Blender might be able to. Like for instance, I don't really know how bone weight works, so in the game it will bend their arms and it will bend, you know, their legs and all that. Not really sure how to edit that yet. But stuff like basic modeling, so like for instance you could like take the rollerblades from someone and put it like on a different character, or you could edit it so he has like a tank top instead of a t-shirt, or like get rid of his watch or anything like that. That's easy enough to do without needing too much experience in Blender. So once all that's set, you're going to want to go to Scene Properties. You're going to want to right-click the skeleton, click Select Hierarchy, and then once you have the export path selected, you're going to want to have SMD, target up axis is Y, you're going to want to click Export clutchbody.smd. So once that's done, it will have exported all of the changes to the model that you made to clutchbody.smd. So once that's done, you're going to want to go back, go to the character that you edited, and then you're going to want to import MDL. So then you're going to want to go to where you exported it, clutch body, open, and then you have all of the different materials. If you change the model in any like really substantial way, you're going to want to have the materials match whatever you put inside the actual model in Blender. But since I only made a small edit, pretty much all the materials are going to stay the same, so import, and look, no boosters. So once that's done, you're going to want to go to CXBX. You're going to want to load the XBE that you have, so the one that I picked to edit, default, open. And then one really important thing that you want to do is clear cache partitions. So once you do that, it will reload all of the different assets that were already loaded before. If you don't do this, your changes will not show up in the actual emulation. So let's go to Clutch. See, no boosters on the side of his rollerblades, and he has no text on his shirt. So the changes that I made did go through. The glitch on his ear, I think, is just something that happens. Might be able to fix that somehow. I think it's either an emulation glitch or something. But yep. So there are a few other things that you can do. For instance, if you wanted to change the color of someone's trail that they make when they do tricks and stuff, you can change it. It's this texture right here. So you could open that in Paint and change like the color. With all these models, the different faces, these are what the game uses to pretty much tell the game like, oh, they're making this face, they're making that face. So if you wanted to change those, you could import them into Blender and change them that way. To like change the faces, you'd want to change like the UV edit. For the hands, you know, same thing, you can import those into Blender and change them that way. There's like different kinds of hands. There's like, I think these are like the left hand, and then these are like the right hand. So you got the spray can. For these models, I think these are like accessories. So for Clutch, you know, he has like his hair, and then he has like the chain which moves and has like physics. This model dictates the shadow that your character casts. It's like a low resolution, low poly shadow. And then this one is the low poly texture that your character it uses it to make the trail effect on your character, which if you wanted to, if you made a lot of edits on your character and your character looks a lot different, but then the low poly model looks pretty much the same and it's like causing glitches in the game, you could click collapse vertices. This will make it so that the model is pretty much invisible, and when you're in game it won't make the trail, but it won't have like any glitches if your base model is a lot different. So for the mod tool, pretty much I just use it to change like character models and stuff like that. That's pretty much it, like textures, character models. So another big thing for modding Jet Set Radio Future is being able to export and import your own sounds into the game. This is a bit more complicated than importing your own models. You're going to need these tools. I'm gonna link in the description this page that I'm using. So for instance, I already have it set up, so let's go. So once you have all of the files extracted, it should look like this. You have JSRF soundtool.exe and Xbox ADPCM.exe. The actual exe files, you can't launch them by themselves. They're used through the command line, which is why it's a bit more complicated than editing and importing your own models. So all these folders you're going to need for the actual exe to work, and with the folder that I listed, it should just come with the folders, but you're going to need these: input, output, wave input, wave output. So right here I have my Jet Set Radio Future modded folder, and you're going to want to go into media, and then you're going to want to go into sounds, SE, and then for whatever you want to change, they're all called different things. For instance, let's say I wanted to change clutch. So clutch.dat, so I'm going to copy that, and you have to put it into the input. So now you have it in the input. So you're going to want to go onto your command line. So the way I do it is you type cd, and then you drag the folder that all of these things are in. So sound tool, and now your actual directory is at the sound tool. So the next thing you want to do is, there's a bunch of different commands, and the page that I link in the description has all of the steps step by step, but I'm going to go over them kind of quickly just to show you like how it works. So I'm going to do JSRF soundtool.exe split pv_clut.dat. So whatever your sound file is, that's what you're going to put there. This will just split the actual data file into the sounds that are in the data file. So hit enter, and see here it just separated all of the files into wave files. So now when you go to wave output, here are all the files. So one thing you're going to want to do is create a folder just called, let's say, clutch raw. And you will want to do this because you want to back up all of the raw data, because you're going to need a few files without having to convert them. So all of these are just raw files. You can check by trying to play it, and if it doesn't make any noise, then you know it's the raw file and you can't actually use it. So the files that it outputs to the wave output are going to not be compatible or listenable inside your computer. So you're going to have to use Xbox ADPCM to convert them to a listenable file. Alright, so Xbox ADPCM.exe wave output / pv_clut_1.wave, and then wave output or input / pv_clut_1.wave. So now I have a listenable file. Yo! So that's how you convert the files so you can listen to them from the unlistenable versions to the listenable version. And unfortunately, to convert the files, I don't really know any other better way to convert them other than like going one by one, but what I did do was create these batch files. So if I edit this batch file, you can see it'll put the directory to where the sound tool is. So for instance, I'm just going to fix this to where it actually is. So there we go. So you put wherever the directory is. So users, desktop, folders, and then sound tool. And then for this, I just made it so that it goes through every single sound file. So for characters specifically, it goes through 1 to 25. So for here, I used beat, so I could do edit, replace, and then beat, and then we can just do cut. So replace all. So now it'll go through every single file and it will convert it from the raw file to the wave file. So I'm just going to save this and then run it. So now I can use my batch file, convert them all, and now I have all of the actual sounds. So for instance, you can use Audacity, which is like a free audio editor, and you're going to want to import them. There we go. You can hear it. So now I am going to make my own little voice and try to put it over the thing. Yo! So one really important part of this is that they have to be the exact same length. If they aren't the same length, it just won't work and your game will crash. And also one big thing is that it has to be mono. So mono, just copy this, paste it. Let's see here. So cut, paste. And now I can just change the length. And one thing I do is just like normalize to make sure it's like loud enough. And then I can export the selected audio. You want to make sure you click Wave 16-bit. So in the actual sound tool folder, I'm just going to put my own folder. Just call it clutch custom. Go in there and then save the wave file. So now in my folder, I have my custom voice. So now that you have all of the things that you need, one really important thing is you want to go through each sound file and just listen to all of them. One really weird thing that you must be aware of is that the 16th sound, it just doesn't really have anything in it as far as I can tell, but if you convert it, put your own sound and then convert it back, it will just make the game crash. So that's why you want to make sure that you have the raw files so that you can copy the 16th one and then put it back. The 24th and 25th sound is DJ Professor K just saying the character's name, so I don't know if you would really want to edit that, but you could. So right now I am going to copy the sound that I made and put it in here. Just make sure it's the right one. So now I've got yo, my own voice as clutch. So once you have the sounds, your own custom sounds or whatever you want, you're going to want to take them and paste them into the wave input folder. And then since I have this batch file, it's going to convert all of the files from the wave to a raw file, which you need to do in order to import them back into the game. So I'm just going to save this, click convert, and then now you can see if you click on them, you can't listen to them. They're raw files, which is what you want. If you can still hear them, then you want to make sure that you just do it correctly. So once you've converted all your sounds from the wave to the raw, you want to make sure you copy the 16th, and if you didn't bother editing the 24th and 25th, I'll also copy that from the raw folder that you made. So these are all the raw ones that haven't been edited or anything. You want to go to input, paste them, replace them, bam. If you don't do that, the game will crash. It just won't work. So now I go to CD, sound tool, and then you want to do JSRF sound tool .exe join pv_clut.dat, and then now everything's in pv_clut.dat. So now once you have your custom data file, you just copy and then go to Sounds SE where you got it from, paste, replace. So now once you have the sound file replaced, you want to go to CXBX. You want to make sure you click Clear Cache Partitions, so this will reload everything and your changes will actually work. And then I'll just start it and we'll see what goes on. If you did everything correctly, then it should load, but if it's not working, then when it gets to the blue screen, it just will crash. So let's see if it changed at all. Yo! There we go. So changing the music is a lot easier than changing anything else in the game. It only takes like a couple minutes. So first you're going to need the PES sound file converter, which you can get right here. I'll put the link in the description. Just click manual download. It's a RAR. You want to extract it, get it all set up, and then you should have the PES file converter. So for instance, I'm going to use this song and convert it to ADX. Add, let's see, pick the file, next. And then I'm not really sure what these settings do, but I'll just keep them as default. Click the source directory so it just goes back to the desktop. Convert. There we go, I've got my file. So now you want to go to your Jet Set Radio Future directory. You want to go to Media, ZADX, BGM, and here you have all of the songs in the game. You can either change the actual songs that you listen to through the radio, which is good if you're going to be doing like trial runs and stuff, because the sets don't play. So these are like just like the single songs, and then the sets are like what you hear when you go into like an area, so you can change the sets. So for instance, I'm going to change aisle 10. You want to make sure you get your ADX. Let's just change it to the file name that we want to replace, aisle 10. There we go, replace file. There we go. So now we'll go back into the game and see if it changed anything. One really important thing that you want to do is clear cache partitions. So once you do that, it will reload all of the different assets that were already loaded before. If you don't do this, your changes will not show up in the actual emulation. So there we go, change the sound file. So if you guys have any questions, I would be glad to help you. Just leave a comment, and if I know anything about it, I'll definitely get back to you. I'm still pretty new to all the modding stuff, so not every question I'll know the answer to, but yeah, if I know what you're talking about and how to help you, I will get back to you.